Hey you guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments on YouTube. So today specifically we are going to be talking about investing in vintage graded comic books. And I want to start this video off with a question. Where have I ever advised you guys to buy the highest graded copy of anything? Whether it's rare coins, whether it's toys, whether it's currency, whether it's comic books, video games. I have never once on this channel advised you to buy the highest graded anything for investment. As a matter of fact, in most cases, that is a recipe for disaster. Now, there are certain exceptions to this rule. For instance, if you're investing in comic books and you're not going to take my advice, you want to go after an Amazing Spider-Man 300, you want to go after a Walking Dead 1, in those scenarios, you're going to have to buy those books in 9.8 condition, specifically because so many copies are on the market already in 9.8 condition that in order for those books to be investment worthy, that's the grade that you're going to have to buy them. Now, full disclosure, I do not recommend either of those books to be placed in a long-term investment portfolio geared towards vintage comic books. Now, other markets, when we start talking about Alpha Edition Magic the Gathering cards, if you're getting those cards graded by PSA, or you're going to the market and you're buying already PSA graded cards, if you can find those cards in PSA 10, you're going to be rewarded highly in that market if you're going to choose to invest in those cards over the long term, if you do go after PSA 10s. But aside from those two examples, I never, ever advise you guys to go after the highest graded copies of anything. In most cases, you're going to get slapped in the face with a stale donut. And here's why. I've done a video on this. There is something in the literature about investing, speculating in antiques and collectibles that mentions the terms optimal collecting grade. And maybe we have to do a refresher on this, because I did do a video on this several years back. Maybe I need to resurface that video again. All is what an optimal collecting grade is. Let me show you what this means, guys, just for a quick review. Optimal collecting grade is where a high-level collectible can be purchased at a value that is a sharp discount from a collectible that is one notch above it. So let me use this as an example. Let's say you go to the market and you want to invest in a vintage comic book, and a 9.4 copy of that particular comic book that you're thinking of investing in is selling for $7,000. A 9.2 is selling for $5,000, but a 9.6 condition copy is selling for $15,000. In this scenario, 9.4 is your optimal collecting grade. You need to understand that. Now, why is the 9.4 an optimal collecting grade in this scenario? Because it's selling for $7,000. The next grade up, 9.6, is selling for $15,000. That is more than double the price of the 9.4. Therefore, for investment purposes, your golden opportunity to own that book is in 9.4 condition, not 9.6 condition. Now, this is where I get asked, well, Shawn, what if I already own that book in 9.6 condition? Or what if I was a smart little Timmy who back in the 1990s, when a lot of these books weren't selling for thousands of dollars, I bought that book for $50, $60, and I ended up sending it directly to CGC, and it came back 9.6, and it's been in my collection ever since. What I would tell you to do is sell that book on the market, take the proceeds, buy a 9.4, and take that $8,000 profit, and guess what? Put it in a mutual fund, put it in an index fund, or, I know, a lot of you guys don't like that advice, take the money, put it in another comic book, and this time don't make the same mistake. Buy it in an optimal collecting grade. The optimal collecting grade is what investors like me use when we analyze the market, when we come to the market and we buy these collectibles for investment purposes. If you understand the concept of optimal collecting grades and you are an investor or a speculator, you will be 10 times ahead of your competition. I guarantee it. That's why I do this channel. Now, how does this tie into what we're going to be talking about today? Well, you've probably already read the video's title. Today, we're going to be talking about a Reddit post where an individual said that he lost $69,000 investing in comic books. Now, I read through this post, and in my assessment, he didn't sell anything yet. So, to be fully clear, he really didn't lose any money. This is more of a paper loss at present time. If you don't know what I mean by paper loss, it's not a physical, quantifiable loss because he didn't bring these books to the market yet. So all is what he's doing is he's looking at what he paid for his books. He's comparing it to their current market value if he would potentially sell. And he's going in his mind, oh my gosh, I would lose close to $69,000. Now, full disclosure, I'm not going to cut this individual up. I'm not going to cut anybody up who makes mistakes of this magnitude. As somebody who started out at the bottom tiers of the antiques and collectibles trade, I've made similar mistakes in my many, many years of investing, speculating, and collecting a lot of these particular items. The difference is I had mentors who helped show me the way. I'm educated in business, finance, economics, and also antiques and collectibles. And I learned to pull my head out of my proverbial ass. And every time I incurred a loss, I literally felt that loss to the point that I wanted to learn from it. So I didn't make that same mistake going forward. So I'm not cutting up anybody who makes these kind of mistakes. But what I am going to say is a lot of you are caught in a speculative euphoria. You need to understand that at some point, comic books are not going to be trending as high as they are in the year 2023. And if you want proof of that, obviously just by reading through this particular post about this Reddit user that lost $69,000, comic books aren't as high as they were during the pandemic. And I tried to tell you guys that we were in a massive speculative euphoria with a lot of these markets, and instead of people taking me seriously, they came into the comment section, cut me up, and now there's all types of losses occurring in graded video games, comic books, Marvel trading cards, sports cards, Pokemon cards to a certain extent, Magic the Gathering cards, because people want to believe their preferred collecting category exists in a vacuum and it's going to go to the moon simply because you happen to like it and you go online and you find other people that like it. Well, read the book Psychology of Money and you'll learn one of the major mistakes you're making with that type of mentality. Now, this particular user bought the following 5 books that we are going to be talking about today, and I mainly want to focus on the Bronze Age books. I'm not too concerned about the Copper Age or Modern Era books because I think that those were a very stupid purchase. I'm just going to tell you guys that. And I want to be very clear here. If you're thinking of investing in comic books, there are a lot of great opportunities in the Silver and Golden Age. The Bronze Age, you got a problem. There's too many books out there in the Bronze Era. There's very few Bronze Age books that are investment worthy over the long term simply because there's too many in existence. Now, I am going to name 2 in this video that are Bronze Age keys that you can attempt to invest in. And if you check the CGC census numbers, you're going to see that they're very low population books. Those books are you ready, guys? I don't like to give investment advice, but I'm just telling you, when I analyze the Bronze Age market, these are 2 books that I consider to be potentially selling at a discount, even in today's marketplace. Could I be wrong about that? Yes, I can. Full disclosure, do I own these books? Yes, I do. The first book is House of Secrets 92. The second book is Batman 227. Those 2 books, if you look at the CGC census, you're going to see there's opportunity in those 2 books. I'm sorry to tell you, there is not that much opportunity in a giant-sized X-Men 1 or an Amazing Spider-Man 129, or even, dare I say it, an Incredible Hulk 181, especially with the run-up in prices. There was recently an Incredible Hulk 181 with off-white to white pages in 9.8 condition that sold through Heritage for $69,000. I wanted to do a video on it, and little Timmy's, when I posted about that, had to come into the comment section and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. What do you mean I don't know what I'm talking about? The particular book, a 9.8 Incredible Hulk 181 with off-white to white pages, sold for $69,000. I'm sorry, that's a new low for that book, given the speculative euphoria we've been in. A lot of these items are dropping. There's no more free government money circulating, guys. The PPP loans have dried up. The government's no longer sending checks. As a result, little Timmy's not stuck indoors getting free money, logging online to Heritage auctions, to Comic Link, to eBay. He's now back out in the real world. Okay? So what 5 books did this YouTuber buy? Let's talk about that. The 5 books in question: Giant Size, X-Men 1, in CGC 9.8 condition. Man, you bought that book at the peak. Book 2, Amazing Spider-Man 129, first appearance of the Punisher, CGC 9.8 condition. Next book, and I think that this book was a very stupid purchase in my opinion, please forgive me, Special Marvel Edition 15 in CGC 9.8 condition. You guys can look up what Marvel appearance that particular book featured. I never liked that character. I always thought it was an overrated character. I can't believe even they attempted to make a movie on it, but you do you. The other 2 books were Avengers 196 in CGC 9.8 condition, which I think was published in 1980. Why we are investing in books from 1980 for the long term makes no sense to me. And the other book was Star Wars Clone Wars 1, Special Edition in CGC 9.8 condition. Again, guys, I don't invest in modern comic books. I do very little with Copper Age books, and I do very little anymore with Bronze Age books. If you want to invest in comic books, you need to look for opportunities in the Golden Age and the Silver Age. Preferably, in all honesty, if you're trying to invest long-term, pre-1965 comics. Let me say that again, pre-1965. In the year 1970, the first Overstreet comic book price guide was put out into the marketplace. People were already speculating in a lot of these books. That's why when you get to the Bronze Age and you look on the CGC census, you're going to see the following. For Giant Size X-Men 1, universal grade only, you're going to see 219 copies in 9.8 condition alone. For Special Marvel Edition 15, CGC 9.8 condition, there's 119 copies at present time in 9.8 condition alone. For Amazing Spider-Man 129, in CGC 9.8 condition, there's 166 copies. And I will spare you my analysis of Avengers 196 in CGC 9.8 and Star Wars Clone Wars 1 Special Edition. Okay? You don't need to hear my commentary on that. You already know it's going to be very bad and very negative. So let's just stick to these particular books. Now, this is what I want you to do. If you're following along here, I just told you how many copies exist in each one of these books in 9.8 condition. Now, do me a favor. Pull up those 2 Bronze Age books I just told you about. House of Secrets 92 and Batman 227. Please tell me how many copies are in 9.8 condition of each? How many copies are in 9.6 condition of each? How many copies are in 9.4 condition of each? Those are your books that are selling still at a small discount compared to the overall market. A book like Giant Size X-Men 1 or Amazing Spider-Man 129 or even Incredible Hulk 181, guess what? They're fairly much selling at a premium at present time because every little Timmy, Kimmy, or Poindexter wants to own the first appearance of Punisher, the first appearance of Wolverine, or the first new X-Men team. So that's why those books are selling for a premium. Now it gets better. because I went on to the actual Reddit page. I don't have an account on Reddit, full disclosure. I'm not really in the social media, any of this stuff. And I started reading through the comments. And I do want to bring up some of these comments because some people hit the nail right on the proverbial head. Other people are still living in fantasy land. So we have to have an honest conversation here. So I'm going to just read these comments verbatim, and I'm going to give you my opinion really quick. First comment, there are only 219 of those giant-size X-Men 1s in CGC 9.8. You hold on to it long enough, and you should be able to break even or better on it eventually. Where's the evidence of that? Where's the proof? Comic books for the last 5 to 10 years have been selling at all-time highs. How can you sit here and realistically say this book is going to go higher and higher? 219 copies is not rare. Please understand that. We're going to get to that later in this comment section. Now, there's a great quote that somebody stated here. When chasing grails, there could be some fails. That's 100% true, guys. There's a lot of risk in these markets. You know, some of the Timmies, Kimmies, and Poindexters that like to criticize me, they tell me, well, Shawn, the stock market's really risky. I'm not telling you to invest in individual stocks. I'm telling you to invest in index funds and hold them for the long term, meaning 10, 20, 30, 40 years, not 3 years, not 4 years, not 1 year, not 6 months. I'm not telling you to buy individual stocks. When you invest in collectibles, it is almost comparable to putting your money in individual stocks. It is extremely risky. Let's go on with some of these comments. The giant-size X-Men and the Amazing Spider-Man 129 will grow in value over time, no doubt. The others were just flavors of the month because of the movies and shows. Do me a favor. Go back to the 1990s during the modern comic book speculative boom. You're going to see, if you go back to the 90s and you get yourself a copy of the Overstreet Price Guide, whatever year you want to go after, 1991, 1992, 1993, go look up the value of a giant-size X-Men 1. Go look up the value of Amazing Spider-Man 129. They grew in value simply because the perfect storm occurred. You had third-party grading, then you also had the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now we have every Timmy, Kimmy, and Poindexter trying to speculate and invest in these books. It's been overdone, guys. At a certain point in time, this market needs to correct even further than what it already did. That's why I'm trying to teach you guys. Learn the optimal collecting grade. Understand what's truly rare and scarce in the market. I named 2 books in this video already. I really hate to tell you, it's not giant-size X-Men 1. It's not Amazing Spider-Man 129. Here we go. More comments. You may have overpaid, but there's no argument on condition. Again, why are we attempting to try to invest in the highest grade possible and potentially, especially in this case, overpaying for it? You could have got a 9.4 for some of these books, and you would have been just fine. Now, did the market for 9.4s also pull back? Absolutely, significantly. But it didn't pull back like the 9.8s did. Let's be realistic here. I love this comment. A 9.8 giant-size X-Men 1 is always going to be rare. There's 219 of them, dude. It's not rare. It's never going to be rare. I don't think you understand the definition of rare. Rarity means a handful of available examples. Golden Age books like Action Comics 1, Detective Comics 27, Batman 1, those are rare. A giant-size X-Men 1 in 9.8 condition is not rare. I could call up 3 of the top-tier dealers that I know online, and I could ask them, I could say, hey, I'm in the market for a giant-size X-Men 1 in 9.8. Guarantee you, within 2 weeks to a month, they would return my call and they would say, hey, Shawn, we located the book. We can get it for you like that. Try to do that with an Action Comics 1, a Detective Comics 27, a Batman 1. Even hell, try to do that with a House of Secrets in 92 in 9.4, or a Batman 227 in 9.6. Let me know how it goes. Guarantee you, you'll be getting your giant-size X-Men 1 in CGC 9.8 condition a lot sooner than any of those books that I mentioned, guys. It is not rare. Same is true for An Amazing Spider-Man 129 in 9.8. It's not a rare book. Here we go. What's in demand changes. Many of these books can bounce back. That's true. But what's the opportunity cost? Right now, a Vanguard federal money market fund with no risk is paying 4.4%. Could you imagine if this person would have put the $69,000 that he lost in that particular fund, which is a money market fund, guys? It's not invested in stocks, and it's paying 4.4%. Now, here's the kicker. What's the Fed going to be doing with interest rates over the next year? They're going to be raising them even more. So guess what? That particular fund, it's going to keep going up in value. I mentioned this in another video. Guarantee you, there are money market accounts out there where if you have the money, you call them up and you say, hey, I got $69,000 to deposit into this particular fund. They will give you 5%, not Vanguard, but other companies out there. Hell, you can go with a brokerage CD and probably get over 5% in today's market. Instead, you decided to lock your money up in comic books when prices were at all-time highs. Again, I've done some stupid things in my day. I'm not criticizing you, but you got to understand, you got slapped in the face multiple times with a jelly donut. And not only does it hurt, it's messy. You got to clean up the mess, man. Okay? Back to more comments here. I love the dopamine hits of spending, buying, and collecting. I obviously need help. Yes, in another video, we're going to be talking about shopping addiction and how it relates to people who claim they're investing in antiques and collectibles. That's going to hit hard for some of you. Your biggest mistake was buying based on movies. Dink, we finally have a winner. Long-term value will only be maintained with characters people love from the comics. You might get a bump with the next Shang-Chi movie, and I'd probably sell then. In all honesty, he's 100% correct. I would not be holding on to the Special Marvel Edition 15 comic book at all. I don't even consider it a key, to be honest with you guys. Giant Size X-Men is an evergreen comic and has always been worth a good sum. Always in the antiques and collectibles trade doesn't really exist unless if you're talking hundreds to thousands of years. Given the fact that Giant Size X-Men 1 was published in 1975, saying always in this paradigm is a very big misnomer. And I want to correct you on that. Be very careful when you call something evergreen. In the antiques and collectibles trade, evergreen would refer to a Picasso, not even really, no, really, honestly, we would be looking at a Monet, a Rembrandt. That would be evergreen, or a Da Vinci. The Picasso even wouldn't be evergreen in this scenario, if you get the analogy. Going on. If it helps you feel better, I found Amazing Spider-Man 129 at a Texas flea market in the mid-'80s and bought it for $2. Back in the 80s, that's what it was worth. About 5 years later, I sold it for a couple hundred and thought I was a genius. I want to give this person credit. You were a genius. Because instead of holding on to it all these years, if you would have took those several $100s and invested it in an S&P 500 index fund, do you have any idea how much money you would have sitting right now? I do, and it's in the thousands upon thousands of dollars. Next, brutal. I admit to overpaying for some books during the boom, but nothing like this. You'll end up making money in the long run, though. Most likely he won't. He's violating all the advice that a person should use if they're attempting to invest in these markets over the short term or over the long term. So I'm sorry, I disagree with that comment. Continuing, I got caught up in the promised pedigree madness and paid $29,000 for a Rangers comics issue. Madness in retrospect. Yes, a lot of people overpaid for a lot of the promise pedigrees with those wonderful, beautiful special labels that CGC used. A lot of you guys fell for the hype. I'm beginning to suspect that investing based on MCU speculation is not that great of an idea anymore. Now, I love this comment because he's 100% correct, but it's kind of sad that he's just coming to this conclusion right now, this particular poster. Sure, the new movies are still making a lot of money, and the TV shows are getting a lot of views, but nothing seems to have the same cultural staying power as the movies from the first few phases. How about that? There are just too many movies and shows, too many characters, and as a result, too many new shiny objects for speculators to pay attention to. This person's 100% correct. I can't fault his logic. The only way to win is to know about a new character in the MCU way before anyone else does. Well, today that's really not likely to happen. I suspect the only people who are doing that successfully are people with advanced insider knowledge, ding, 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 of what's going on with Marvel Productions. If you read an announcement that such and such character will make an appearance in such and such movie or show, then if you immediately run out and buy the first appearance, you're already too late. And if you don't sell in the weeks leading up to the launch of that show or movie, you lose again. Because the pattern at this point is predictable. Once the show or movie launches, the value of the books drop. 100% correct. Here's another one. At some point, comic book movies will go out of fashion. It is inevitable. I have been repeating this mantra since the start of this channel. If you don't believe me, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even early 80s, Westerns were all the rage. How come nobody's going to the theater to watch the newest Western movie? Because guess what? The generation that grew up with Westerns already moved on. And I always love this because this is where I get in the arguments with Timmys, Kimmys, and Poindexters that tell me, Shawn, you don't understand. Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man is internal. Okay, if that's true, that doesn't mean they're always going to be good investments. This is the same argument I get with Nintendo collectors and Pokemon collectors who try to tell me, you don't understand, Shawn. Everybody loves Pokemon. Everybody loves Nintendo. That doesn't make the items or merchandise related to those items a good investment over the long term compared to other opportunities in the overall market. Whether we're talking antiques, collectibles, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETF, real estate, gold, silver, whatever it is, take your pick. There is an opportunity cost to investing in these markets. And this particular individual, had he have put that $69,000 that he lost just in a money market account, he could be getting 4.4% interest at present time. And let me help you guys who suck at math figure this out. Literally over a year, that is over $3,000 in interest alone. Imagine if he would have just invested the $69,000 that he lost and said, you know what? I'm going to use the interest from that money to buy a comic book. He could have still had the $69,000 and he could have took that $3,000 1 year later, went to the market and bought himself a key issue. And guess what? He would be sitting pretty. He would still have the $69,000 and he would also have a $3,000 comic book. And that's why I do this channel, guys, because that's the way I think. I think like an investor. I don't think like a collector. I don't think like a speculator. And that's what I'm trying to get you to do. If this video has been helpful, let me know in the comment section. Feel free to subscribe to this channel. More content is coming soon. Thanks for watching and have a great night. And just one final thought, I'm not cutting anybody up in the comment section or this particular individual. I'm just trying to show you guys the way. And some of you guys just don't want to hear it. There is no Konami code to life. I'm sorry, guys. I got to say it here now that everybody already shut the video off. There's no up, down, left, right, B, B, A, select, start, where you're going to get 30 extra guys, you're going to get all the hot chicks, you're going to get awesome collectibles, 30 cars, you're going to get $5 million in your bank account. It doesn't work that way. You must understand the basics and risks of investing in these markets and allocate capital, resources, and your time appropriately. Otherwise, you will get slapped in the face with a stale donut. Thank you.